Hi, I'm Shri, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about why I think Python is a better language for LeetCode than Java. If you're like me, you probably started programming about 10 to 12 years ago and you learned Java or C# in your university or school and did not learn Python until much later. When it comes to LeetCode practice, I think Python has an edge over Java, mostly because Java is too verbose. Most of the solutions take longer time typing it out in Java compared to Python. If your solution is much longer, it's also likely that you'll make more mistakes. Another point is, in Python, you don't have to care about the types. Most of the LeetCode solutions don't really require you to care about the types, so Python again wins in this situation. So having said that, my comfort level is still with Java, and I'm slowly trying to improve my comfort level with Python. In this video, I'm going to take an example of a very easy LeetCode problem and compare its Python implementation versus a Java's implementation. This will provide an example of how simple it is with Python when compared to Java. Now let's consider this easy LeetCode problem. The problem is 383 Ransom Note. So given two strings, Ransom Note and magazine, return true if Ransom Note can be constructed by using the letters from magazine, and false otherwise. Each letter in magazine can only be used once in the Ransom Note. So the problem is pretty simple. So given a Ransom Note and magazine, the problem asks if we can construct a Ransom Note from the letters in magazine. So the strategy here is basically, build a map using magazine, and the map would keep track of frequency of occurrence of characters. The key would be the character and the value would be the frequency of occurrence of that character. So once we have built the map for magazine, we iterate through characters in Ransom Note and subtract the frequency of occurrence from the magazine map. If the frequency of occurrence is 0 or if the character does not exist, we can return false. If we complete the loop, then we can return true. Now let's see how we can implement this in Java. So first I'm going to declare a map of character and integer. Map is equal to new hash map. Then I'm going to iterate through characters in magazine for ch magazine to car array. Then I'm going to check if this character is present in the map. If it is present in the map, I'm going to increment its frequency. If it is not present in the map, I'm going to add it to the map and set the frequency to 1. So if map dot contains key ch, if true, then int frequency is equal to map dot get ch, map dot put ch frequency plus 1. Else map dot put ch, else map dot put ch of 1. So at this point we have completed building map which keeps track of number of characters in a magazine and their frequency of occurrence. Now I'm going to iterate through Ransom Note and decrement the frequency, and if I complete that, I can return true. But if the frequency is 0 already and if the character is not present, then I'm going to return false. For char ch Ransom Note to char array. If map contains key ch, does not contain key ch, I return false. If it contains int frequency is equal to map.get of ch. if if frequency is equal to 0, then we have nothing to decrement, so return false. Else map dot put ch frequency -1. And if we made all the way this far, we can return true. So this was accepted. Let's submit. Let's see how many lines this was. This was about 25 lines, and this was relatively a simple problem. I think we can probably use get or default and even make it even simpler. This is a relatively simpler problem. Now let's observe how we can implement this in Python. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to initialize a dictionary, and then we're going to populate the dictionary to keep track of characters and their frequency of occurrence. Fcount is equal to, that's it. You don't have to declare any types here. And for car in magazine is equal to fcount dot get of car 0 plus 1. That is how we populate a dictionary in Python. And now we are going to iterate over Ransom Note. For car in Ransom Note, if car not in Ransom Note, return fcount dot return false. If frequency is equal to fcount dot car, if frequency is equal to 0, return false. Else fcount of car is equal to fcount of car -1. Return true. So we iterate through characters in Ransom Note. If the character is not in fcount, we return false, and then we calculate the frequency of the character in Ransom Note. If the frequency is 0, then we return false. Else we set the frequency of fcount as the frequency of fcount -1. Or we can also write this way. 1. Finally, after the loop, we return true. That was accepted, and then submit. That was accepted. So in Java, this was about 26 lines, and in Python, this was about 20 lines. This might not sound like much, but in the medium and hard problems, all these tiny details matters. Let's look at all the extra stuff I had to do in Java, which I didn't have to do in Python. So in Java, I had to declare these types. Then while iterating through the for loop, I had to convert it to character array. Same here as well. And then I check if the key exists in the map. If it exists, I get that value and increment that value. In Python, and all this was like in one line. The same thing in another iteration. So I check if it does not exist, then return false. Then I get the frequency. If the frequency is 0, I return false. Then I decrement the frequency. So this is more or less very similar to Python. So overall, I found that Python approach way simpler compared to Java. There was this mindset where once you know Java, you're so comfortable and you don't want to pick up another language just for interview purposes. So I had that mindset for a while. But some time ago, I think it's advantageous to know Python. And if you know a problem and if you think you can solve in Python faster, and if you're more confident that way, that might give you an edge in finishing the problem faster and making less mistakes. Let's consider another problem, number 67, add binary. So given two binary strings A and B, return their sum as binary string. So we have A is equal to 1 and 1, B is equal to 1. So output is going to be 1 0 0. So let's look at the strategy here. So the way we add binary numbers is we process from the least significant bit and move from right to left. So consider A is equal to 1 1, B is equal to 1. So if we add them, if we add 1 and 1 in binary, the result is going to be 0 and 1 carry. So 1 goes to the carry. So again we have 1 plus 1, so that would be 0, and 1 is in carry, so 1 goes to the left most significant bit. So this is the answer. So we have to translate this into code. So given that the input is in string format, so we have to extract the least significant bit and process them and move from right to left. So first I'm going to declare the variable which is going to hold the result. Here they expect the result in string format. So but I'm going to use string builder because we are going to be modifying the result quite often. So string builder result, string builder. Okay. So we want to know the length of these strings, int I is equal to a dot length minus 1, and j is equal to b dot length minus 1. So I represents the index to track A and j represents the index to track B. So now we're going to declare a variable to represent carry. Now we have to iterate through string A and B, but from the rightmost end. So while I is greater than or equal to 0, or j is greater than or equal to 0, or carry is greater than 0, int x is equal to 0, if I is greater than or equal to 0, x is equal to a dot character at I minus 0. So this is how we convert it to int. So we converted the character to int value, and then we do the same thing for string b, int y is equal to 0, if j is lesser than greater than or equal to 0, y is equal to a dot character b dot character at j minus 0. So int sum is equal to x plus y plus carry. So here result dot insert 0 sum modulo 2, and then carry is equal to sum divided by 2. So So I'm not going to go into details of why we are doing sum modulo 2 and sum divided by 2 for the result and carry. That is a separate topic of discussion. This is how we would calculate the result and the value for carry. Okay. And then decrement I, decrement j. So in the end, return result to string. So the reason we insert at the 0th position is once we are as soon as we are done processing the least significant bit, when we process the next set of bits and we insert it at 0, the least significant bit that was processed is moved towards right, and as we continue through the iteration, we process from right to left. Okay, so this So this was the process of implementing this solution in Java. So I had to define a string builder class, and instead of a simple string, and then return call toString on that. And then I had to figure out a way to convert the character to int value. And then I had to insert it at the first position of this data structure string builder. Overall, it took about like 29 lines of code. It is not too bad. Now let's look at how we can implement this solution in Python and compare the two. So I'm going to define index I as length of a minus 1, index j length of b minus 1, and then result is equal to empty string for now, and then carry is equal to 0 while I is greater than or equal to 0, or j is greater than or equal to 0, or carry is greater than 0. X is equal to int of a of I if I is greater than or equal to 0, else 0. Y is equal to int of b of j if j is greater than or equal to 0, else 0. Sum is equal to x plus y plus carry. Now result is equal to string of sum divided by string of sum modulo 2 plus result. Carry is equal to sum integer division by 2. Okay, then we decrement I is equal to I minus 1, j is equal to j minus 1, and then return result. Let's run this. So this was the Python implementation of add binary problem. So here it was very easy to get these indices. I just have to call length on A and B, and then I just used string. I initialized to empty string, and carry was set to 0. Here it was very easy to convert character into int. All I have to do was call int, and here it was very easy to convert character into string. All I had to call str on that value. So overall, when I compare to Java and Python, I think Python is way more simpler than Java. Java took about 29 lines of code, and Python took about 22. So comparing to Java solution, in Java I had to declare a new data structure. I had to work with this data structure. I also had to know this to convert from character to integer, and it took relatively longer lines of code. And with Python it was super simple. A conversion from character to integer and integer to string was very straightforward, and rest everything, I think it was on par with Java. So Python here took about 22 lines of code, and Java took about 27 lines of code. Although the difference seems like not much, for more complex problems, specifically in LeetCode context, Python has more advantage over Java. I've also had an experience where an interviewer asked a question which was way easier to implement it in Python than Java. Comfort level with Python for interviews was not great back then. It's still not there yet. So I chose Java. So at the end of the interview, the interviewer said, if I had chosen Python, then it would have been much easier. I think the problem there was choosing questions where it is way easier to implement in one language versus the other. It gives advantage for candidates who use Python for interviews than Java. So I would say that was not a good problem to ask, where the choice of the language you choose to implement gives an edge to one candidate versus the other. With these two examples, I hope you were able to see how simple it is in Python for LeetCode purposes than compared to Java. One thing I forgot to mention was, I know that Java has map getter-default method in the later versions of Java, which would kind of make it similar to Python's implementation. But if you have not practiced using map getter-default in the interview setting, where you have to know the syntax like the back of your hand, I would still regard it as a disadvantage. Personally, I find Python syntax more intuitive and easy to use compared to Java, specifically in LeetCode context. Let me know in the comment section what is your favorite programming language for interviews, and whether if you agree if Python is the better language for LeetCode purposes than Java.